I'm too experienced to be taking for a stroll. I'm too experienced for someone to rock and roll. I'm too experienced to be taking for a ride. And I know it's not my foolish pride.
So there's been a huge public backlash against Tyson Fury for taking this Francis Ngannou fight, as expected, and rightfully so. Now, Fury, of course, has responded. He had to respond amidst all this backlash. So he took to social media and put out a video where he's basically saying that the people who don't like this fight are just jealous of him because he's making a load of money. Well, if that was the case, then we wouldn't like any big fights in boxing. We'd be slagging them all off. All the world title fights, all the unifications, we'd be slagging them all off because all of these fighters have got more money than us. And that's not the case. So obviously it's not that, is it, Tyson? That's just a sign of his desperation. And he can't even come up with a decent response to the public backlash. That's the best he can do. As I said earlier in several videos, if Tyson Fury was taking this Ngannou fight after he'd already fought and beaten Usyk and cleaned out the division, no problem. Again, like Muhammad Ali did with a Japanese wrestler in the 1970s. He fought that guy after he'd already beaten Frazier, Liston, Foreman, and so on. So if Tyson Fury is calling himself the best heavyweight of all time, the bare minimum he can do is match what Ali did. Bare minimum. Because remember, he's not saying he's as good as Ali, as great as Ali. He's saying he's greater. So if you're greater than Ali, at a bare minimum, you need to meet the standard that he set, which obviously Tyson Fury has fallen a long way short of. Now, I've seen the comments. I've seen lots of people on various videos about Tyson Fury saying that they previously were Fury fans, but they're no longer fans because of the way he's carrying on, ducking Alexander Usyk and so on. But there are a hardcore contingent of Fury cheerleaders. I'm not even going to call them they're cheerleaders. Fanatics, yes, but it's beyond fanaticism. We're talking about cheerleaders. We're talking about groupies. They're Tyson Fury groupies. And there's still this core of them. You'll find them scrambling around on the internet. Most of them are psychotic. I mean, if you listen to the logic of these people, there is none. It's literally psychedelic magic roundabout stuff with these people. And let me explain what they're like at this point, because Tyson Fury has absolutely no respect for the fans. He doesn't even respect his own fans. He mugs his own fans off. You know when he's doing these little talks where he goes everywhere and speaks in front of a crowd of people and takes a load of money? That's okay. Everybody does that in boxing. But when Tyson Fury does it, he gets up on stage and says that he's going to fight Anthony Joshua for free and give all the tickets away and all this. And all the crowd are cheering and roaring for him. Oh, he's such a great man, Tyson Fury. He does everything for the fans. He's getting up there saying he doesn't care about money. He doesn't do it for the money. It's only these other fighters that do it for the money. Yeah, that Tyson Fury. He gets up there mugging off his own fans, getting them to believe all this nonsense. And then he goes and fights Derek Chisora in a trilogy fight on pay-per-view. And then he ducks Alexander Usyk and fights Francis Ngannou, a man who's never had a boxing match in his life. If you're going to be such a money grabber, then just be honest about it. See, I was one of Floyd Mayweather's biggest critics on YouTube. I used to get so much heat from Mayweather fanatics. So much. Day in, day out, right? I was like public enemy number one in the eyes of the Mayweather fanboys. But at least Mayweather was somewhat honest about his intentions. Don't get it twisted. He lied a lot and there was a lot of deception going on as well. But he called himself Money May. He didn't disguise the fact that he was all about the money. And now that he's retired from boxing and he's just doing all these exhibitions against kickboxers and MMA fighters and YouTubers, he's blatantly coming out and telling you, I'm robbing the bank. Right? That's what he's telling you. It's just easy money. He's robbing the bank. This isn't competitive and so on. And that all kicked off really with the McGregor fight. And again, Mayweather fought McGregor after his career was done. So you can at least give Mayweather that. Although there was a lot of shenanigans during the time he was fighting, he fought McGregor after his career was done. And as I say, he was somewhat forthright about the fact that he's just completely money-oriented. Derek Chisora, obviously, he's not the same level of fighter that we're talking about here, but for the longest time, he's been honest about the fact he's money-oriented. And it hasn't hurt his fan base and his following when Derek Chisora came out and said, it's all about the money. I just want the money, blah, blah, blah. I just want the money. It hasn't really hurt him. See, honesty goes a long way. But with Tyson Fury, he clearly hasn't learned that lesson yet. He thinks he can still lie his way through every situation. You're going to have to employ at least a little bit of honesty, Mr. Fury. And anyway, as much as he mugs off his own fans, deceives his own fans, milks his own fans, and pretends he's not doing it, these guys, these groupies, they keep supporting him. They keep turning up in the comment section saying this, that, and the other. You know, I remember Ricky Hatton speaking about Anthony Joshua back in the days. This is when Anthony Joshua was still unbeaten. And he said, if he came home one day and went upstairs, opened his bedroom, and found Anthony Joshua fast asleep in bed next to his wife, Ricky Hatton said he wouldn't disturb them. He'd go over and tuck AJ in and then leave him. Obviously, the inference being he'd be too scared to do anything about it, to make a fuss, and so on. Well, the Tyson Fury cheerleaders, if they opened their bedroom door one day and saw Tyson Fury asleep in bed next to their wives, you know what they would do? They would drag the wife out of bed, kick her out of the room, lock the door behind her, and then they jump in bed with Tyson Fury instead. I swear to God, this is what these guys are like. And you know, it is terribly disappointing because Tyson Fury's championship career started off with such promise, beating Klitschko in Germany. That was one of the happiest moments of my YouTube life. Not my life in general, of course, but my YouTube life as a boxing YouTuber. When he beat Klitschko, I was over the moon because the Klitschko era was like the dark ages in heavyweight boxing. It was awful, awful. The way the Klitschkos ran things. And again, to give both Klitschkos credit, and Vitaly was much more of a stand-up guy than Vladimir. Vladimir was the real problem with the Klitschkos, but both of them, to be fair, did fight whoever was in front of them, whoever was there in the heavyweight division. The thing is, there wasn't much there until the very, very end of Vladimir's reign. That's when some new talent started coming in that actually had some ability. But for the vast majority of the Klitschko era, there was nobody around. They were fighting people like Sam Peter, Calvin Brock, Eddie Chambers. You know, respect to Eddie Chambers, but far too small to do anything with them. Not enough power and so on. Not enough foot speed. You know, if you're a small heavyweight, if you don't have tremendous power, you better have tremendous foot speed. Who else was there? Marius Wack, Tony Thompson, you know, all these guys. I mean, in fact, I remember when Vladimir Klitschko fought Calvin Brock. Calvin Brock was seen as the best challenger in the world at the time, the best contender in the world by many people. Calvin Brock worked a day job as a cashier in a bank. Just to put it in perspective, that's the guy who was seen as the best possible challenge at one point in time for Vladimir Klitschko. It was so bad. And Vladimir, as talented as he was, and he was a tremendously talented heavyweight, Vladimir, tremendous talent, he didn't have the heart to go with that talent. And that manifested itself in all the shenanigans that Vladimir Klitschko would carry on with, such as, you know, spongy canvases, messing with opponents' gloves so that they had ill-fitting gloves and so on. Ridiculous contracts. I mean, for voluntary defenses, yes, it's standard for champions to put a rematch clause in there. Well, with the Klitschkos, there was 2 rematch clauses in there. So if you managed to beat Vladimir Klitschko, you had to rematch him. And then if you beat him a second time, you had to fight Vitaly Klitschko. It's just unbelievable. And who knows what the terms would have been for fighting Vitaly Klitschko. But because the 2 brothers owned all the belts, they were working in tandem like that. So yeah, the Klitschko era was awful. Awful. And the amount that they were paying, I mean, for so many years, there wasn't a challenger against at least Vladimir Klitschko that was even earning $1 million. And Vladimir was making tens of millions. And he wasn't even paying the guys he was fighting $1 million. They were getting like 500 grand, 600 grand. It was unbelievable. Honestly, that era was so bad. And then again, with Vladimir Klitschko, such a talented fighter, but he would foul his way through fights from start to finish. He'd be in there against a 40-year-old fat cruiserweight, and he'd be leaning all over them from start to finish. I mean, go and look at a video called Klitschko Illegal Tactics. Go look the video up. I think it's still up on YouTube. And it goes through the entire Klitschko-Povetkin fight, and it shows all the clinches initiated by Vladimir Klitschko. Not just clinches, Klitschko leaning on Povetkin to such an extent that Klitschko's own feet leave the ground, and the referee doesn't even warn him for it. Unbelievable. Do you know how tiring that is when someone that size is leaning all their weight on you in the first round, so much so that their feet leave the ground and no warning. No, I think he gets a point taken off in the 11th round or something like that when the fight's basically over by that point. Just shocking. Klitschko should have been disqualified for that. I mean, many times over. So anyway, the point I'm making is the Klitschko era was so bad that when Fury came along and beat Klitschko, I was so happy, I was relieved because this nonsense had finally come to an end. And as bad as Tyson Fury has been as WBC champion, and before that when he was running around talking about all this lineal stuff, as bad as it's been, I certainly wouldn't swap this era for the Klitschko era. No way. Because in this era, we've at least got some variety. It isn't just the two-headed monster with the Klitschkos. There are other fighters. It's a much deeper division now than it was during the Klitschko era. Much more talent around. And so despite Tyson Fury making a mockery of the division, making a mockery of what it means to be a heavyweight champion, making a mockery of the sport, really, there's plenty of other good things happening in the heavyweight division. We've got an all-time great in Alexander Usyk. Greatest cruiserweight of all time, steps up to heavyweight, schools AJ twice. He's now fighting his mandatories, tried to make a fight with Tyson Fury twice. Usyk hasn't put a foot wrong in terms of fulfilling his moral obligations as a champion, either at cruiserweight or at heavyweight. He's been literally the model champion. That's what you want champions to do. Just run through the whole division. Fight everybody. Usyk has been on that smoke from day dot. That is something to be celebrated, folks. You don't often get champions like this in any weight class who are willing to behave the way Usyk's behaving. That is a fantastic thing to have. So we've got a great champion in Alexander Usyk. And Tyson Fury could be a great champion, but he's choosing not to be. That's the thing. He has the potential, but he doesn't want to risk his financial status. Instead, he wants to milk it. You know, like when David Haye fought Audley Harrison and he was avoiding a Klitschko fight for a few years to milk that WBA strap for a while before he took the risk. Yeah, same thing. But Fury's just taking it to the next level. So we got a great champion in Usyk doing his thing. The contenders are fighting each other. We got Anthony Joshua fighting Dylan White. If he gets past that, he's going to fight Deontay Wilder. Happy days. Wilder might still fight Andy Ruiz. We'll see what's going on with that. We got Zhang rematching Joe Joyce. We got Filip Hrgovic, who's already mandatory. He doesn't have to fight. He could just wait for his shot, but he wants to stay busy. He's taking on unbeaten southpaw Dempsey McKean. I'm sure he thinks fighting a southpaw is going to help him in preparation for Usyk. The only thing I'm not happy about with regards to what's going on with the contenders is the WBC not calling purse bids for Wilder Ruiz. They really need to do that. They should have done it months ago. And to be fair, Deontay Wilder shouldn't even be in a final eliminator anyway. Who's he fought to warrant being in a final eliminator? He shouldn't be in one. It shouldn't be Wilder Ruiz. It should be Ruiz versus Sanchez or somebody like that in a final eliminator. And then the winner gets a shot at the title. But the WBC are aiding and abetting Tyson Fury and his shenanigans. And they often do this, the WBC. They're the worst for letting champions have carte blanche to just do whatever they want. They don't allow every champion to do it, but they have their favorites. I have to assume Jamal Charlo is one of their favorites because that guy hasn't fought for 2 years and somehow he's still got a belt. Like, what's that all about? And of course, Tyson Fury is one of their favorites as well. Wilder was one of their favorites previously, so on and so forth. Obviously, Canelo has been one of their favorites for many years. So the WBC are the worst for that. And at heavyweight, they need to get a mandatory sorted. They need to get their belt moving. Think about it as a conveyor belt, actually, the top 10. That conveyor belt needs to keep moving and churning out mandatory challengers. But instead, there's no purse bid being called for Wilder Ruiz. What's that all about? Get the purse bid on. Was it some funny business behind the scenes between Sullivan and Al Heyman? So that's the one thing that I don't like with regards to what's going on with the contenders. But everything else is cool. It's not perfect, but it's cool. It's moving. Fights are happening. Contenders fighting each other. Mandatories are starting to happen. No problem. Just get that WBC situation sorted out. And to the Tyson Fury cheerleaders stalking my videos. I know you're watching. You say you hate me, but you keep on tuning in and watching me, commenting about me, talking about me everywhere. Thank you for the views, by the way. I got a song for you. I'm not a singer. I don't have a great voice, but I made an effort for you guys.
T-Stone Cold, I'm wondering why I got out of bed at all. Morning rain clouds up my window, and I can't see at all. Even if I could, it'll all be gray. Put your picture on my wall. It reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad.